Well, welcome to the weekend. At least it's a weekend for me. So, welcome back, my friends. Here's another reading that we can think about, work on, gives us at least pause for thought, and helps us to discern if we are truly living in accordance with our own principles or not. Without further ado, I'm going to start reading the script. It's called Boldly Do the Work. As you probably figured out, as we talked about the other day, this whole month is about boldness. The Science of Mind magazine itself is about boldness. And to be fair to him, Reverend Remont has picked up that theory or that theme, and he's incorporated that theme in all of his readings so far, and probably will do for the rest of the month. And that's quite a challenge when you think, well, what can I say about boldness? What can I say about being bold? So I think he deserves some congratulations in incorporating this so far pretty well into every theme that he's talked about. And yes, some of them are repetitive. You can say he's saying the same things in different ways, which is good. It's simply trying to help us to change the way we think, feel, live, and move. I've just been assisting as a mentor in some students who were learning how to mediate. Mediation is the system whereby you help parties to come to an agreement outside of court. And oftentimes the courts, because they're overloaded, will actually tell people to, hey, we want you to try and settle this outside of court, and if you do, fantastic. But before we're going to entertain you coming back to court to figure this out, we want you to try and figure it out yourselves with the help of a mediator or mediators. And as mediator, that's my job. It's to help parties come to an agreement outside of court, write an agreement, and then the court will accept the mediated settlement agreement. And it saves the court time, saves people time, and it certainly saves people money, especially if they're using attorneys. So oftentimes the mediation we do, I think, is with ourselves. I certainly argue back and forth with myself about, am I doing the right thing in this situation? Anyway, I just thought I'd give kudos to Reverend Raymond Anderson for, so far, I think, doing a good job. The first person he quotes from is Rainn Wilson, and I didn't do some research on Rainn Wilson. I guess I could always do that right now, but I don't want to disrupt what we're doing. So I will look Rainn Wilson up, and whatever comes back that needs to be communicated, I'll do that. Anyway, Rainn says, these human beings, flawed as they are capable of such good, such beauty. The artistry of their various populations is staggering. They've produced masterworks of music, literature, and architecture from every corner of the globe. And it's from something called Soul Boom, Why We Need a Spiritual Revolution. And I've got to go back after and look, see what it is. The next one is from someone who's quite well known, at least through his works, to a lot of us, Ernest Holmes, in Richer Living, page 316, paragraph 1. That's probably a big tome, right? He says, right action means that every legitimate and constructive purpose I have in mind shall be successfully executed. It means that I shall know what to do, how to think, how to act, how to proceed. We'll come back to that. Reverend Raymond is once more, he's challenging us. He says, are we ready to add to the list of great works? World peace, equity. It is one thing to sing a song about giving peace a chance, imagining a world with no need to kill or die, and peace on earth and goodwill to all. I'm sure you know the song. It is quite another to adopt those lyrics as a way of life. We can either do the work or we can live the work. One involves compartmentalizing life, which is easy for those of us who compartmentalize the deity. The other involves living the principles of science of mind, not just practicing them. Indulging in too much theory and too little practice makes it easier to do rather than to be. A little bit more about this later. How does a therapist know if a client is being sufficiently helped? How does a physician know if a patient's treatment is being effective? There's a standard of health and wellness that they use to measure. What's the standard that we can use to determine if we are effectively doing the work we're called to do? How are we discerning, evaluating, re-evaluating, and calculating what is and is not effective or relevant? The sad truth is that many people prefer a performance practice rather than a transformative sacred activism, sacred spirituality, and community building, which in itself is relationship building. Either we do the measurable and demonstrable work in creating a world that works for all, or we put on a show to convince others that we are. It is time, he says, as my grandfather says, to fish or cut bait. So what's my take on all this? Something came up in the, well, first of all, there's a difference between preaching something, talking about something, acting something, and actually incorporating it into our lives. That's what he's saying here. Does what we believe, does what we preach, is it part of our lives? Is it actually part of our everyday lives, or is it not? I think oftentimes it comes down to, some of it comes down to an attitude of mind. It comes down to, are we human beings or are we human doings? I picked this up in a seminar I was in. Actually, it was a group of mentors and group of trainers, a group of seminar leaders. And one lady in there said, well, are we being human doings or are we human beings? In other words, where's our main, and this was the point, where is our main focus? Where is our focus held? Do we just do things for the sake of it? Or are we actually living out our lives meaningfully? Are we living out our lives knowingly? And what is the purpose behind our lives? You know, I think that to me, this all comes down to intent. What is our intent when we do things? So when I read something and I think, oh, that's a good idea, do I put it into practice or do I not put it into practice? When I'm actually doing something, why am I doing it? And I'll give you some examples where they're not directly connected to world peace or anything, but they are connected to kind of religious, spiritual environments. So I go to church, I go to a spiritual center, I go to a support group, I go to a humanistic group, whatever it turns out to be. And they want a contribution. Some groups actually demand a contribution, others let you decide, are you going to contribute or not? Some even tell you you're required to tithe, which is 10%. It comes from the Hebrew scriptures, used to be called the Old Testament. Is 10% a good number or not? I don't know. Maybe somebody just pulled it out of the air. But the bottom line is this. When you give, whether it's your money or it's your time, and in this sense, we're talking more about your time and what you do with it. What's your intent behind it? Is your intent just to look good? Is your intent just to have people say, oh, wow, they're doing this, they're doing that, they're doing the other, they're talking this. But what is your actually intent behind all of this? Because if you just give out of a sense of, I've got to do this, or I'm doing it to look good, you might as well not bother. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't want you to stop giving to wherever you give to right now, whatever charity it is, whatever organization it is that works for the good of all, your church, your spiritual center, your mosque, your temple, whatever it is. But at least look behind your intent. And if you give 10% just because somebody said you should give 10% and you want to look good giving 10%, I would say don't do it. What level of giving, whether it's money, time, whatever, what is a comfortable level for you? If 10% is way too much, is 3% okay? Is 4% okay? And if you want to gradually increase that over time, that's also fine. But when you give your time, when you give your money, when you give your services, think about what your intent is behind all this. I think that's where it counts. And if you do look at your intent, is your intent good? Is it for your own good and the good of all? Then you will automatically be fulfilling what Reverend Raymond is saying here, because you won't just be doing something out of rote. You won't be doing something to look good. You will be doing it because you really want to do it and you want to make the world a better place. And sometimes it takes time to get into this frame of mind. You know, it's just the way it is. And what helps? Guess what? Affirmations help. We always get an affirmation every single day in the Science of Mind magazine. And this, of course, is another partial quote from the Bible, this time from what used to be called the New Testament. It's now called the Christian Scriptures. Whereas faith without works is dead, my faith lives and I act accordingly, doing that which is mine to do. Whereas faith without works is dead, my faith lives and I act accordingly, doing what is mine to do. Going back to a concept which was really alien to me until I heard it, when people say, well, have you accepted Jesus as your Lord and Savior? And if you do that, you're fine. This all goes back to the concept of faith without works is dead. Because if your faith in something does not result in you doing something good as a result of that, it is dead. But when you do, it's good. And guess what? When you go out and you start to help make the world a better place because you want to do that, you will feel so much better about yourself. And it's more than likely it's going to help your health. It's going to help other people. It is going to make the world a better place. So that's all I've got to say about this. I needed to take a deep breath because it's been a busy day today. And I literally came off a Zoom mentoring mediation straight into this. So I did have a sip of water first. But anyway. And that's all I got to say today. Reverend Lisa will be on tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock-ish. I will be back tomorrow evening, around about 5 o'clock. And I just want to thank all of you for watching. Please give us a like on whatever medium it is that you watch us on. Please give us a like. Even if you've given us a like before, give us another like, because it helps increase our ratings. And the message we have to the world is good. It's not give me this, give me that. No, it's actually to help the world become a better place for everybody. And if you believe in that, and I hope you do, then giving us a like will start to help the world become a better place. So until next time, take care of yourselves, and then you can take care of others. Namaste.